Any health-related information on the following show provides general information only. Content presented on any show by any host or guest should not be substituted for a doctor's advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any new diet, exercise, or treatment program.
Are you a woman over 40 and you're just stuck? You've got the kids at home, or maybe they're out of the home, but you got the aging parents, you've got the husband, the financial issues, and you're just trying to get to the gym. You're trying to do your cardio. You're eating clean. You're trying to stay away from the alcohol, but maybe you give in, and the weight won't budge. Your energy's plummeting. You don't know where to go. Well, we're going to get into it with our guest today. Welcome to Accelerated Health with Sara Banta, where I cut through the noise and fast track your journey to better health. I'm your host, Sara Banta, CEO and founder of Accelerated Health Products and certified by the National Association of Nutritional Professionals. I'm here to share the latest on supplements, wellness hacks, and natural health solutions that actually work. Imagine that. From boosting your energy to detoxing to balancing hormones and everything in between, I will help you reach your optimal health. So let's dive in. Super excited to have Hailey Babcock on. She is the founder of Hailey Happens Fitness, an online fitness and nutritional brand dedicated to empowering women like you over 40 to feel strong, confident, energized through every stage of midlife. The second half of our lives, girls, can be better than the first. Believe it. So with over 20 years of experience in the fitness industry, Hailey has guided more than 50,000 women through her online programs. They obviously work, which focus on fat loss, strength training, and sustainable nutrition. And it's probably all the things that you're not doing. Welcome, Hailey. How are you today?
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. This is fun.
I am too. And I feel like us women, we're just dumped on. And I was interviewing someone the other day about emotional issues and how that stress from life can inhibit our health progress. And it goes into our fitness as well. And so us women have to be more mindful of how we're taking care of our bodies. Unlike our children who can get away from working out for 5 hours a day and doing chronic cardio and all that stuff, beating their bodies up, and they just bounce right back. That's not us. And I think this is why so many women are struggling, and then they come and find people like you. So I'd love to start with, why are you doing what you're doing? How did you get so passionate about this field? And I'm sure it feeds your soul, just like what I'm doing, because that's why I do what I do, is to help other people.
Yeah, so I actually was in New Jersey. My husband was working in the city back in 2017. I think we were there from 2017 to 2020. And in 2019, I had been in the Ironman world. So that was like my whole life, all of my free time, pretty much kind of dialed into the 70.3 distance. And that's what I did. I ended up having a major, an injury that wasn't major at the time, but kind of just, I did my final race in 2018 and just started having like hamstring, and then it became knee stuff. And I tried all of the, physical therapy and dry needling and blah, 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 and resting and this and that. And I ended up having major knee surgery for an undiagnosed issue in January of 2019. So I kind of, at that time, I had been strength training a little bit, but mainly just body weight to support the, 10, 12 hours of training I was doing a week for these really long distance races. And when I was going into surgery, I was like, okay, I'm going to get I'd been teaching Pilates, and I had been kind of doing a little bit of coaching on the side, but I wasn't an official certified, personal trainer. So I decided to get certified while I had 6 weeks of non-weight bearing, sitting in bed. So I was like, I'm going down a rabbit hole here. And I got certified, and a couple months later, of course, I kind of started strength training that whole year. And I was teaching Pilates still. So I was kind of peppering in strength training into my one-on-one Pilates sessions at the studio that I was teaching at. And fast forward to 2020, everything shut down and we were still back east. And shortly, a couple of months later, we ended up moving back to our home in Boulder. But during that time when none of us knew what was happening from day to day, I was getting hit up with clients all the time. And they were like, well, what am I supposed to do? And so I just started posting on Instagram, like these TRX workouts, because either body weight or, no one was going to a gym. And so I started kind of just doing these TRX workouts and body weight workouts. And it kind of gave me this little boost. Like it kind of took off for a few months where people were really interested. Now that was all great, but I was like, this isn't really where I want to go. This is a part of it, but I really want to start steering more into the strength training. And I didn't want to be kind of pigeonholed into just like TRX follow along workouts.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved back to Boulder, and my husband was kind of working. Well, everyone was working remote, but he had some time and we just started filming like in my backyard. And honestly, at this time, I was just hungry for information. So I started taking continuing education courses. I mean, just every time I finished one, I joined another, and I was just finding things that I was interested in. And I ended up kind of one of my last courses in 2020 was this fat loss fundamentals course. And I asked the instructor, I was like, would you want to do this for Gen Pop? Because this was obviously for personal trainers. But I just started seeing the misinformation where people were like, oh, I should be fasting. I'm not fasting. I should do keto. I shouldn't do keto. All of these things. And it was just like confusion. And so I decided to run a course with, what ended up being my business partner at the time for this fat loss course. And honestly, I didn't even know where it would go, but I had decided to do an app, which was never on the books. Like nope, not even a thought, but I ended up doing one, and I did my, two TRX courses I launched. And then I did this fat loss course for women, and half of the people that joined were my friends and, like old Pilates clients or whatever. And we just had really good feedback. And that kind of catapulted me into doing some other, launching some other workout plans. And then from that, more courses, and then kind of adding more courses in that, I have a nutrition education only nutrition course. And then I have a fat loss course where we're actually in a fat loss phase together. And then I have like this 6-week challenge. So I just kind of started building different things that my customers and my followers were wanting. And so it really morphed into something more than what I started out to do. But now it's incredible. I literally get to hear from women in any of these groups all over the world. And so many of them, their stories are the same. And they're like, thank you. I had given up on weight loss because nothing was working. I was so done. Nothing was working. And I just thought, this is my perimenopause or my postmenopausal body. Enjoy, get used to it because it's not changing. And that conversation has really shifted into allowing women to have more education and really good programming to help them achieve their goals. And that's really what it's about from women all over the world, any stage of fitness. A lot of women, as we know, are coming into the weights room, but nobody knows what to do. And so what I hear a lot of the time is, well, I know I'm hearing the message. I know I need to strength train. I know I should do a progressive program. I shouldn't just go into the gym and do my own thing, all the time and just kind of no plan, but I don't know where to start. And so really finding a foundation for these, like an entry level, and then building up from there with a bunch of different programs for every ability level was really important and mandatory for what I wanted to do. And it's taken a few years, but here I am. And I definitely would not change it for anything. It fills my bucket and it makes me, I love what I do. And that's the most important thing.
Okay, so much there that I have questions on. First of all, I love the way that your business grew organically, because that is the best way for a sustainable business, right? I mean, when it's organic and you're getting the constant feedback from your customers and friends, you are doing that testing where you go, okay, wait, I need to turn this way, I need to turn that way. And that is why you are where you are. So congratulations on that. And I love that it is something that you love to do, because people can feel that, right? You can't fake that you love your job. I want to talk about this fat loss, because we're in a world now of Ozempic where it's all about weight loss. And there's a big difference between weight loss and fat loss. Throw away your bathroom scale. We need to look at our muscle, water, and our fat. And there's all of these trends. And I know Dr. Stacy Sims has debunked so much, and you follow her mantras, but as far as the fasting, as far as keto, as far as cardio, I mean, there is a place for cardio, but going to, Orange Theory and then going to a hot yoga strength class is not good for a perimenopausal woman. And I remember when I've always been an athlete, but midlife, when I was being told, no, just do your weights and for 45 minutes, that's good. I always felt like, well, because I didn't sweat, I needed to go for a run, or I needed to go do something else, which is not necessarily the truth. So what are the fundamentals and what are the myths about fat loss, not weight loss, and what you're teaching?
Okay. So a lot of women, I don't know if your audience listening, if this is common knowledge, but from the women that I get it, it's not. There's a big difference, like you said, between weight loss and fat loss. And when I'm taking somebody into what I call a fat loss phase, we are desperately trying to keep and maintain any of the lean muscle mass that we have, because it's usually the first thing to go. It's the most expensive tissue in the body, and it's the easiest to pull from. And so at this stage of life, it's also really hard as we're hitting this menopausal transition, give or take, whatever, 5 years, 7 years. If you're postmenopausal, it's really hard, not impossible, but it's more difficult to hang on and build muscle at this age. And we definitely can, but it has to be strategic. And if we're going into a fat loss phase, which is how we have to lose body fat, like we have to be in a calorie deficit, we have to do it the right way. So really laying out the non-negotiables would be what I would say. And that is, resistance training has to be a part of your program. Ideally, the research shows 3 days is pretty ideal, but you could probably get away with 2 days. 1 day is usually not enough of strength training, but you're looking at roughly about 3 days of consistent, not heavy, like max strength lifting. I mean, it could, but more in that hypertrophy range, because we're looking at volume and total volume in the weights room when we're in a calorie deficit. And so we get more volume with the hypertrophy, kind of 8 to 12-ish reps, somewhere in that range. And so we lay out the strength training, and then we look at cardio on the other days. And ideally, we're having this female move 6 days a week. That's not totally realistic for everyone. So then I say, okay, cool. What can you commit to? And then let's program from there. So if somebody said I can only do 5 days, I'm not giving up my 3 strength training days. I would cut out a cardio day and do 2 cardio days. What does the cardio look like? So then that's the other conversation of, what does it look like? We hear Dr. Stacy Sims and some of these other, female scientists say that we need this polarized training, which is very true. And we need that super high intensity followed by bringing your heart rate back down and then revving the engine back up. So that's what we call high intensity interval training. I lump the sprint interval training in there. It's just a shorter duration, but it's in the same family of interval training. So I will always add that in to a female's program as well. How much? Depends on how much time, like how many days somebody is exercising, as we said before. Ideally, maybe 2 days of HIIT and then 1 day of that steady state zone 2 low intensity. And I like to use that form of cardio one day a week in a fat loss phase, because these women are already working with fewer calories to support their training and their body. And so it's a great recovery day. So one day a week is a full rest day. And then the other day, ideally, if you're following the 6-day schedule, this other day is they don't have to go completely destroy themselves in the gym or in these HIIT sessions, which are just require a bigger recovery penalty because they're harder. They tax more systems, where low intensity steady state is easy to, you can recover within maybe 2 hours after you finish that. So I like adding that in one day a week and then having those 2 HIIT sessions. Now, obviously that can be tailored to whatever the client and the female needs. But that's kind of how we educate in my courses. That's like the winning formula that really seems to work for a lot of women, because you're kind of getting into these different areas. You have strength training, and then you have some high intensity, and then you have one day where you can just chill and like go on a ride with your friends, or go on a walk with your friends, or a hike or whatever. So those are really the non-negotiables when we look at trying to maintain and hold on to our muscle while we're in a calorie deficit, which again is needed to lose some of that body fat. Now, the caveat would be, ideally, women aren't always in this fat loss phase. And that's the other issue, is you will have women that kind of get in this cycle where they don't know the last time they haven't, quote unquote, been dieting. And that can be really damaging for our hormones and our metabolism as we age as well. So if somebody's coming to me, it doesn't matter who it is, I'm going to ask, how much time do you have in a week, realistically, that you can do? And then how do we get you in, do this fat loss phase well, and get you the heck out, so that we can really spend the majority of the year building muscle? And there are outliers, because I'm trying to foresee the questions. The outliers are, well, what if, I gain muscle really easy? And there are a few people, there is a small percentage of women that do. They have that build, they have that genetic makeup where they might put on fat and muscle a little bit easier than maybe someone that has more of a very thin build and been thin all of their life. So, it's ideal to, most women won't have to deal with that though. Most women are going to be really pushing hard to maintain or even slightly gain in the muscle mass field. It's not easy.
No, it's not easy. I try to do it every single day. And I do have ways of doing it. We use accelerated aminos, and you also need to make sure that your liver is being taken care of and detox, because your body does its fat burning and muscle building in your liver. And then your thyroid, of course, has to be optimized, because just like you're saying, chronic dieting is putting the body in that stress survival mode where your body shut down its metabolism. And I don't care how many calories you think you're burning or how many hours you're in the gym, you're not going to lose any weight, any fat.
Oh.
And your body says, I'm just going to start attacking my muscle, because that's what I know how to do, and eat it. And I tell my young girls all the time, I go, you take care of that expensive muscle that you've built up in these teenage years, because it is hard to keep when you get older. And it's so sad when you see these women that want to lose 10 to 20 pounds. They just look at the scale and they're losing that expensive muscle. They're not supporting that muscle while going through that fat loss phase. And they're doing the chronic cardio and they're wiped out. And they're not eating enough, and then they're reaching for the wine at night because they're stressed and they're tired. And so it's this vicious cycle where you're not getting the energy. I mean, the whole goal is to have energy in life so you can feel good and enjoy life, right? That's
absolutely.
So, I mean, it's not so much about looking good in a bathing suit quite as much in your 40s and 50s as it was when I mean, we all want to, but
Yeah.
that would not be, I mean, most of us would say pain and energy are more important at this stage in life than the other. But it takes all of these different factors, and it's not just about calories in, calories out anymore. So
Yeah.
with either the workout schedule that you just laid out, because I'm thinking for a woman who says, I, number one, don't have energy to do what she's asking about, and I don't have time. The HIIT training, it doesn't take much time. Am I correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. You're cutting your duration. I mean, a lot of the times in half, depending on if you're looking at an hour, a traditional hour of exercise. So you can do, even sprint interval training. You're pretty much done with your warm up and your cool down in 30 minutes. And the bulk of that is only maybe, 5 efforts of really hard for 20 seconds or 30 seconds. And then you have this long duration of rest. Or if you have the HIIT training, which has more variable rest to work ratio, then you can kind of fine tune that. But, by definition, you couldn't do, or you shouldn't do an hour or an hour and a half of a HIIT workout if you're doing it the right way. So yes, it's more time efficient, and you can get in and you can get out and get on with your day, because I don't know many females that just have oodles of free time with nothing to do. So we're all trying to tackle a lot, and we've got to fit that in, and it has to be something that we can do in a shorter amount of time, for sure.
And the beauty of that is not only does it take less time, but you're not burning out your adrenals. So you're going to actually have a boost of energy throughout the day. And you're thinking in your mind, maybe, okay, well, I'm not burning as many calories versus if I get on the treadmill for an hour. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? Because that is a mantra that has been ingrained in us since we were little girls.
To spend a lot of time at the gym. Yeah. And you'll see that, you'll have the women that go and they'll do like a exercise class. And then after that, they still go to maybe a Pilates, or maybe they're playing pickleball later on with their friends, or they're, going on a walk with their friends. It ends up, it's hard to fall in. And if we bring the eating back into it, it's hard to not fall into this over exercise, under eat. And then that's a vicious cycle that we kind of get used to. And then when women do want to lose weight, they're like, why is it so hard for me to lose weight? Because you've been underfeeding yourself and over exercising for decades sometimes. Mm. So it is really hard to reprogram that and be like, okay, less is more, because that wasn't the message that we were taught in the 90s when we were kind of getting into our fitness routine and growing up. That wasn't the message. It was, how much can you do? No pain, no gain, as much sweat as you can get. You should feel destroyed and dead. And it is rewiring the mind to be like, okay, that's not necessarily how it has to be done.
Right. So the diet part, and you've touched on this, the under eating, because the typical woman coming to you is under eating. And she needs to get her metabolism back up while you're teaching her how to work out in the gym and do the strength training and the HIIT training. Where do you start with them with their diet?
So I usually, and this is not for everyone, I mean, each female is unique, and so each situation is unique, but I like to bring somebody out and say, okay, let's actually start seeing and tracking what you're eating, not for the intent of going down this rabbit hole. And if somebody had disordered eating, this is not the approach that I would take. But a lot of women aren't even aware what they're eating until they start tracking a little bit and putting it in to a tracking device where they're like, one of two things: either I am severely under eating, or I'm not hitting protein like anywhere near what I should be, especially if I'm trying to diet. Or you have the flip side of, holy cow, there were 900 calories in my smoothie, and I would have guessed there were maybe 400. And so you have both of those kind of situations that play into it. But if we look at the under eating female and over exercising, it's tricky, because I would not just say, okay, let's take your calories. If you're weight stable on 1200, I'm not going to bring you down to 900 to get the scale to move, or to get your body compositions to change, or your measurements, or whatever the mode may be that we're checking. So it is important to, and nobody wants to hear that, because they'll come and they're like, but I'm hiring you to get me to lose weight. And you're telling me now that I have to stay at maintenance. But sometimes that's the right approach to get someone really looking at their diet a little bit differently, and trying to really fuel for the demands of their training session, and looking at it like that, instead of just, I can barely eat, or I'm eating only for pleasure. And not that that doesn't have a place in our food daily, but to really think about, how am I fueling so that my body can do what it needs to do? And if I'm under fueling, then there's chances that I'm not able to really push hard in the gym. And if I'm not able to push really hard in the gym, then I'm not going to build the lean muscle mass that is desperately needing when we want. And most women, again, even if they do want to lose weight, or they do want to lose fat, they don't want to just be a smaller version of themselves. So if they lost 30 pounds, but they didn't build any muscle, and they didn't really protect their muscle, they're just a smaller version of themselves. Where most women are like, I want to lose weight, but I want to have more shape, a little bit more muscle on my frame, so I look better in my skin. I mean, that's usually what women are coming to me for. They want the fat loss, but they also want how the body looks with a little bit of muscle on. So we have to get them out of that cycle and get them to a healthy space. But the building the muscle, I mean, that's the hardest thing, because again, women hear it, but they're like, oh, I don't want to put on a lot of lean mass and look big, or I just want to lose weight. But then, no, you don't. If we break it down to them, then they're like, okay, yes, this is, or if they show you a picture, okay, this person has put in some time in the gym, and it's the muscle on their frame that is not only beneficial for our independence and the 9 million reasons that muscle on your frame are important to have, but also it's going to give you the shape and the look that you're potentially looking for.
Yeah, it's very difficult to get bulky as a woman, especially in perimenopause, menopause, and menopause, where our testosterone has gone down. And we need that. Unless you're pumping yourself up with testosterone or steroids, you're not going to get bulky. And there's that myth around lower, heavier reps is going to make you bulky, and let's do 20 to 30 reps to get toned, which is not even a thing, right? So there's so many myths that women subconsciously and consciously are fighting in their brain since for the last 30 years of their life. And they're trying to overcome that as they've gotten them down to a low calorie diet where the metabolism is slow and there's no room to go because you're already so low. I notice, as long as you're eating whole food, and I'm not talking about keto or carnivore or paleo, I'm just talking all across the board, whole food. The more food you eat, the more energy you're going to have, where your body naturally is going to move more. The less food you eat, the body is going to say, I want to sit on the couch more. So you're going to expend less energy. Now, when you introduce the processed foods that steal energy from the body, you're going to want to eat more and sit more. So that is a whole nother discussion. And that's part of the issue, is that women and the U.S. in general has not realized that our food supply has completely been hijacked, and we are being told that these processed foods are real foods. That's a whole nother podcast. But that does enter the equation of, why do I have no energy and my calories are low? right? So we need to get that back up where our body starts trusting ourselves again. Our metabolism says, okay, we can speed up because we're going to get plenty of energy to fuel our body in that gym. Do you teach women to train differently through their monthly cycle? Now we're talking about women who are still cycling.
I don't. And honestly, there's a lot of mixed, there's a lot of strong opinions and strong research coming out. There's always research to kind of bias whatever opinion you're going or whatever direction you want to go. I typically don't. And with the program that I run with Stacy, sometimes we get asked this. Most people are kind of trending into more irregular periods and into the menopause, but not necessarily. I still have a regular cycle and I've never trained around it. It really is up to the individual. So I will know, for me personally, I'll know a couple of days before I'm going to start my cycle. And I don't keep track. I'm not like, oh, okay, it's been about 24 days, or I should have it like tracked in my phone. I don't. But I can just tell from an energy wise, a few days before, I'm like, I am gassed. Like, I feel like I didn't sleep at all. And even if I did, I feel like I've been hit by a truck. And I always know, okay, I know I'm going to start later this week. And sure enough, I do. So I just talk to my clients. I do have clients that are kind of on both sides of the spectrum, where one of them, once she starts her cycle, she'll call and be like, I'm not going to come in today. I'm not going to be able to do much. So I'm just calling it. But outside of maybe one or two, the rest of the females just kind of, they might have an off day. We might pull back a little bit, but it's always unique to the individual and how they want to, how they experience their symptoms. For me, it's no big deal most of the time outside of that one day. But I also have very light periods. I don't have a lot of symptoms. I never have. So it really depends on how much somebody's experiencing.
And are you teaching your women to eat before their workouts? Are they fasted workouts? I know Dr. Stacy Sims has an opinion on that for sure. And it's debunking the myths that has been the trend of fasted workouts, OMAD, intermittent fasting, and all of that, and how women and men are very different. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So we get asked this all the time. I mean, I've literally heard every scenario in the world when we have these, like in our Power Happens, we have these live Q&As with Stacy and myself. And it's just a constant, same question, but slightly different for someone that's new. But we've answered it a million times. And here's the thing. You're always going to have someone that is like, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. and I don't feel like eating and I want to go for a run, but I don't want to. Okay, so then wake up, go on your run. If you cannot stomach anything and it makes you feel sick and then you don't want to do your workout, eat right after, or maybe sip on something while you're running. Ideally, being fed is going to help you with more energy, which is going to produce more results in the gym. And there's data that shows both between fasted and fed. And again, if you go down the literature research hole, you're going to find studies to back up whatever you want on both sides of the camp. But for most women, you're going to, especially in a fat loss phase, it makes a bigger difference. You need to be fed before these workouts. If possible, if you're not waking up at 4 and you're physically ill, if you eat anything, great, make this situation work for you. Then definitely where we get into a big issue is if somebody's waking up, obviously they have fasted overnight. So we're already waking up in a fasted state. They don't want to eat before, but then after they finish the workout, the kids are like, hey, I need breakfast, take me to school. And then you're running errands and then you go to your job and then you're going hours in that catabolic state. So that's really you have to look at your life and say, okay, what can I do? And how can I fit these, these guidelines into my specific life? And that might look slightly different for Sally than it does Megan. Depending on when they wake up, when they have to exercise, what they had the night before. But ideally, we don't want long stretches of time without food, especially if you're in a fat loss phase. And especially if we're trying to build muscle and we need this large amount of protein to support that, it's really hard to get all of that in one sitting. So we kind of want to start the day with a good amount of protein, and then kind of let it ebb and flow throughout the day to where we have multiple times a day where we're getting a decent amount of protein.
So what does that look like as a pre-workout meal if you're working out in the morning?
So this is what I do. And I wake up early, but I usually do all of my social media and stuff like that. And then if we're during a school year, then I'll get my son ready for school, and then I'll head to the gym for clients. And so I have the time luxury of not working out until 9. So I have plenty of hours where I eat a normal breakfast.
Yeah.
Now, if somebody were, again, in that other situation that I gave, or they're like, I can maybe tolerate a little bit, I will always, and this is just me, I will have, if I am going before I take my son to school and I wake up and I have to get my day started a little bit earlier, I will do just a scoop of protein powder, and I'll just mix it up in a little bit of water and have that. I have something in my system, and then I'm ready to go, but I'm not so full where I feel like I can't really work out well because I'm so stuffed.
Right.
And then I make sure that I eat a decent meal on the backside so that I'm really surrounding that window of training. And that's where, when I talked about fueling for the demands of the training session, what else goes in there in that training session as we recover? Well, we know carbohydrates are going to be more beneficial for energy when we're doing strength training. Heavy, and again, heavy, I'm not meaning under 5 reps only, but just like a good, strong strength training session or high intensity interval training is going to require more carbohydrate to be used as fuel than maybe a low intensity steady state or a Pilates class. You probably don't need that carbohydrate as much. And that doesn't mean that you should go low carb, but just really looking at your day and saying, how can I benefit? How can I fuel my workouts to get the most out of them? If I want this goal of either I want some body composition changes or I want to just build some muscle, we need fuel around those workouts to recover and to provide energy.
Yeah. It's interesting because I used to fast and I could eat just one meal a day because your body gets used to what you do, right?
Yeah.
And I also noticed my metabolism slowed down. So then when I started incorporating more meals, my metabolism went up. When I started incorporating more carbs, my metabolism went up because the body's smart. So
Yeah.
us women just need to start trusting our bodies, and they will come back online. And it will be you'll be amazed at how much more output you get at the gym when you have that fuel in your system versus going straight into a fasted workout. It goes against what we're thinking because, if you're fasted, you're going to tap into your own body fat stores, or maybe you're so stressed out, your body's actually going to burn your muscle up. Yeah. And that would happen to me. I'd test my blood sugar, I'd test my ketones, and I noticed that I was actually burning my muscle up when I was fasted versus going after the fat that is what the goal is. So sometimes it'll backfire. Hailey, before we go, I want to talk quickly about your programs and how you structure them for year-round strength training or fitness training.
Okay, so again, when women come to me, they're kind of like, just tell me what to do. Tell me what to do, and then I can guide them in, beginner, intermediate, advanced, or wherever they fall, depending on their skill and their training age. But most women want to go in and just kind of crush it all the time. And there is a season of periodization that I like to say. If we look at an Olympic athlete and how, the best athletes in the world, they're not training the same year round. So that's where we have to start periodizing. What does our training look like over a calendar year? And the majority of that time, as I mentioned earlier, should be building muscle. Some of that can be in a fat loss phase if you if you need that, and that's a goal of yours and that's important to you, but also building a strong foundation once a year, dedicating maybe 6 to 12 weeks, maybe depending on the female, of a good foundational program that you pull back and say, okay, I'm going to do more unilateral work. I'm going to really work on improving my work capacity. So my cardiovascular fitness as well, so that I can do more in the gym. So the fitter we are, it all plays into it. The fitter we are cardiovascularly, the more we can recover between sets, which means the more we can lift in that next set. So they go hand in hand. And what that looks like is really just stepping back from your main goal of maybe building muscle or max strength or, speed and power or whatever that goal is for that client, and adding in this section, the small portion of time over a calendar year. Can you hear my dog?
It's okay. We love dogs on this show.
Okay. Sorry. Somebody must be dropping off a package.
It sounds like my house.
So that really is where I like to put that in is to, make sure that a client does a foundational phase, which really increases their movement literacy, their left to right balance, their front to back balance, their big prime movers, opposed to like the small stabilizer muscles, so that everything gets love. And we're pulling back from what maybe a traditional program looks like so that we can do better. We can build that solid foundation and then do better for the remaining year. So that's kind of how I look at the year. And then the remaining time out of that, maybe 10 months, the majority of that should be speed and power or hypertrophy and building muscle or max strength. And sometimes they can cohabitate in one program. And sometimes you have slightly different programs that have slightly different goals. But for females in this age group, we have to work on max strength, power, maintaining our muscle mass with some of those hypertrophy blocks. And then also, working on that polarizing training. So that's how we live a really balanced life where ideally we are independent in our 90s and we have the heart health to do that. And we have the muscle to support that.
Well, and it also keeps things moving and changing. So you're not just getting static and stale. And all three of my kids have been athletes, and during the fall, they're doing technique and endurance. And then they're doing, more power stuff in the spring during race season. Mm-hmm. And then summertime is recovery and more yoga and the basics. So there's a reason, just like you're saying, Olympic athletes don't train all the same all year round. There's a reason, and you don't want to peak at a certain time or before the race, whatever our race is during perimenopause and menopause. But it does keep things moving and changing and us from getting bored. The one last thing that I will just put in there, because us women say to ourselves, okay, I have no time. If we don't fuel our souls, we are not going to show up for all of our loved ones in our full capacity. So we have to put ourselves first. And there's always time. And you don't need a ton of time for the gym or for the sprints or for walking the dog, right? To lower our stress. But those things are so imperative to having that energy and living that fulfilled life and lowering the stress so that we can show up in the world for our loved ones in a better way. And that's why I also love your programs and what you're doing, because you're going to help people stay focused and on track and accountable, so that then they actually see the results and what we're talking about, and becoming the person that they're hoping to be. And after being stuck in ruts, we get ourselves into this place where the doctors are just saying, you're supposed to be fat and tired when you go through menopause. No, you're not. You're not. You can actually live a more energetic second half of your life than you did the first. So, Hailey, thank you for everything. Where can people find you, work with you, social media, all the fun stuff?
Yeah, so I'm Hailey Happens Fitness pretty much on Facebook, on Instagram. I kind of do TikTok, but not a lot, and my website. So that's where you can find out about all of my group programs, and then also any of my workout plans that are just you do on your own. So yeah, that's all right there, and it's just been so fun working with this age group of women. So I feel very fortunate and super happy that I get to do it.
Well, thank you, Hailey. It shows, and obviously you physically are in amazing shape and know what you're doing. So thank you for all your work and for showing up today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I don't know about you, but I'm supercharged after talking to Hailey and listening to all of the benefits of lifting weights and taking care of our bodies and getting into the shape that we have so much wanted to over the last few years in this period of perimenopause and menopause. And so I just wanted to touch on 3 supplements that can actually give you more energy so you have more fuel and fat oxidation and muscle building support during those workouts. And the first one is accelerated aminos. It's an amazing essential amino acid supplement that works for the bodybuilders, works for the 18-year-old boy, but it was designed for us women. Why? Because when I was taking the leading essential amino acid supplements out there, I was getting bloated. I was getting this water retention. Didn't make sense. There were no calories in the supplement. Most supplements have these fillers or other ingredients that don't work with our bodies, that back up our liver. Accelerated aminos has 0 fillers. It has the 9 essential amino acids, but then it has cofactor ingredients that help maintain the muscle mass while burning fat. And it's 99% absorbed within 15 minutes, bypassing digestion. Most of you have digestion that is not perfect, right? And that can cause issues. But it also helps with that fat burning with the other ingredients like synactive and estrogen and HMB, which helps prevent muscle breakdown, OKG, which helps prevent muscle breakdown. Synactive helps increase ATP and mitochondrial health, which is going to give you more energy during your performance, during your workout in the gym. And you've also got that ability to support the muscles if you choose to not eat enough before your workout, or if you're fasting, or if you're on a caloric restrictive diet. So it's helping women maintain that muscle mass even during those intermittent fasting or reduced caloric intake days. The second one is accelerating iodine. 96% of the United States is deficient in iodine. You need iodine for optimal thyroid health. If you do not have an optimal thyroid, you're not going to burn fat. I don't care how much working out you're doing, whether it's in the gym or on the treadmill or whatever. You've got to optimize your thyroid. It boosts the thyroid function. It is that 4 and 3 in the T4 and T3 thyroid hormones. It supports mitochondrial health, increasing that ATP. It's detoxing the halogens, the bad estrogens that are blocking your fat burning. And your cells are storage containers for all those toxins. If we cannot get rid of those toxins out of our body's just going to hold on to these fat cells. Doesn't matter what you're eating or what you're doing. It also helps regulate your hormones. And then the last one is accelerated liver care. If you are not taking care of your liver, you can't burn fat and you cannot assimilate protein. I had gone through an experience where my liver was overburdened because of spike protein and some other toxins that I was taking in. And I was losing muscle because my body was burning its muscle as fuel. It was not able to assimilate the protein. It wasn't able to burn fat, and it wasn't able to convert the thyroid hormone T4 into T3, which happens in your liver. All of it happens in your liver. So those 3 supplements are going to fuel you, give you that energy you need so that you can show up in the gym, show up for your workout, show up for your kids, your husband, and your aging parents, and your work, and all of the things that you want to do in life. So thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you check out Hailey. I love her social media and all that she offers. And she really speaks to what us women need to be hearing in 2025. Hopefully you got the inspiration to take that next step on your health journey. You can head to SaraBantaHealth.com for my articles and more. Join the free group coaching on Telegram. Shop the supplements we talked about at acceleratedhealthproducts.com. You can use coupon podcast10 for your first order. And if you loved what you heard today, share with your girlfriends. They need to hear it. Not only is it going to help them, but it is also going to help this podcast reach more people like you. You can find me at Accelerated Health with Sara Banta on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, E360, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Roku, and over 100 different platforms. Remember, I'm live every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so join me next time for more ways to unlock your health potential.